Also of hotels, going live for Did You Choose Hospitality or Did Hospitality Choose You? We're here with Victor Simmons. He's the Vice President of HR and DEI and Equity for Ace Hotels. Did I say that right, Victor?
You still it's DE&I, diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so I didn't get it right then, is what you're telling me. Is that what you're telling me? I didn't get it right?
Yeah, you gotta look. You keep tripping up on that. You
I
keep
don't
tripping.
know. I don't know why that is. I don't know why that is. But anyway, hey, I'm live here in Houston and Victor's. And where are you located, Victor?
I am in Orlando today.
Okay,
Today.
very good. Very good. So he's in Orlando, Florida. So we're going to talk about just real quickly. And yesterday we started this series here live on YouTube as well as LinkedIn about how do people get into the hospitality space. And Victor is he's been around for a while. He's been around as long as I've been around. So and maybe he'll tell a little story about that too. I don't know. But anyway, without further ado, because we want to limit this to like 15, 20 minutes. But anyway, Victor, did you choose hospitality or did hospitality choose you?
Well, I've been thinking about this. There's actually a little bit of both. Because yes, I know you know this story quite well because I called you crying over the phone one day. So, um, I was going to school, San Diego State, and as a business major, and I was trying to get things figured out there, and then I started having kids a little bit early. I found out my girlfriend was pregnant. I was trying to figure out what I was going to do, and I called you, and we were talking about the school you were at and the major you were in was computer information systems, right? Isn't
At
that
the
what you
time, probably at the time, yeah.
and you were talking about transferring into the hospitality program. And for me, I enjoyed the jobs I had been in while I was doing these part-time jobs, going to school at the local JC in back in Palm Desert, California. And I looked at all the jobs I had done, and I enjoyed working in restaurants. I enjoyed working in hotels, but my plan was to get into some sort of business and run my own business. So I was a business ad major. But when this occurred, and I heard that you were going into Cal Poly Pomona for hospitality management, I thought, well, I really enjoy those things. Maybe I should do that. And so I got into that school right after, I think right around the same time you did, right? And it took off from there. And I've always gotten jazzed about being in the back of the house and working with folks. And there's in hospitality, as we're a people business. And so there's a lot of trials and tribulations that happen, but there's also a lot of fun. And so I've always enjoyed that. So I've had a great career, continue to having fun with this latest company I'm with, but it's been a real ride. So in one sense, I was thinking about running my own business, but in the other sense, when I thought about, okay, I got to buckle up because I got now I got kids to feed. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
what am I going to do and get serious about this? And I thought, if I really enjoy this work, then that makes sense to me. If it's something I enjoy, then it's not really called work. And so
That's true. That's
I
true. That's
chose that.
true.
Yeah.
Well, take us through your progression. So let's say, okay, you got out of Cal Poly. What was your first job? So take us from kind of abbreviate your jobs up until your current job.
Yeah. Okay. So while I was going to Cal Poly, I was actually already working. I was working at La Quinta Resort and Club, a fabulous world class resort, and I was working in a bunch of positions. My goal was to get in as many departments as I could before I graduated. And so I did that. I worked in a bunch of different departments. And then when I graduated, I became an event services manager and I was slinging groups. I was writing the contracts during the day. And then in the afternoons and evenings, I was servicing these groups that were coming in. I did that. I eventually started doing the larger groups where I was just a senior convention service manager. I did that. I went into sales there. I became the front office manager, all at that location. And then I went over to Marriott and I was with them for a few years. And then at this point, my my oldest was starting to become a teenager, and a fun night for him was hanging out with his grandmother. And I wanted him to get into a little bit of trouble, and so I thought, what could I do? I was still slinging groups back at that point, and I thought HR was an 8 to 5 weekends off. And in the resorts, it absolutely is not. If you're going to be successful, if you're going to really make a difference with your teams, you got to be there on the weekends and help fold towels and go out
Mhm,
to the pool area and help the pool attendants and be around, because a lot of folks, especially in resorts, only work the weekends, not
mhm,
during the week. So I realized that very quickly. So I started going in on the weekends, not all day, but I would be there, and I would work late evenings, because there's some folks that only work the PM shift, and so, or the overnight shift. And as I know, you know this, but for those that may not, when you get past 11, 12 o'clock in the hotel, there's only maybe three people running that hotel. Meanwhile, you still got business going on. The bar is going, people are getting drunk, things happen, pipes burst overnight, and you're counting on these two or three people. So
mhm,
I would go in from time to time on the overnight shift just to, spend time with them and say hello. So it turned out to be, I got into HR thinking I would have a better quality of life time wise, and I did. But you have to I still put the time in, and that led to my success as well. And it turned out to be the most rewarding thing I had done up to that point. I had great customers, great friends from that. But being in HR now, I'm helping people, take care of their families, be
mhm,
able, move up. And that, nothing jazzes me more than helping someone go from an hourly associate to a supervisor to manager. And if I get somebody to transfer, back in the day in Palm Springs, if I got them transferred out of Palm Springs to New York, whoo, get them out of that area. I
mhm,
just love love doing that. So I've been doing HR for, since 2000. And then about 4 years ago, I had been doing work in the diversity and inclusion space
mhm.
since I had joined Marriott. They were doing a lot of work in that space back then in the 90s. I was
Okay.
involved in their committee that they had that worked on diversity and inclusion back then as a manager. Um, and I was also involved in the recruiting cadre that they were doing at schools for hospitality. And so I learned those things while I was at Marriott. I took them to Starwood. When I went to Starwood, I was an HR director for them, and I was doing some of that work, which was something that they hadn't seen before. And then by the time I got to Wyndham, um, I had really perfected the work. I was looking at career progression with a DEI lens. I was looking at compensation through a DEI lens, and that got recognized by the corporate team at Wyndham. And at this point, I was an area director of HR, and it opened up an opportunity as the director of diversity and inclusion for Wyndham Hotels and Resorts. So I did that just about a year and a half before COVID
Mhm.
happened.
Okay.
And um, when COVID happened, from a diversity and inclusion, is kind of interesting. There were two rules of thought. March, April of 2020, what's essential and what is non-essential,
Mhm,
right?
mhm,
Non-essential, people were going out on furlough or being eliminated, and Wyndham tried to thread the needle between those two, and that department, most people left, but they did leave somebody there to try to manage that. But little old me was one was taken out. So,
mhm,
and one person in that department to run it, but it turned out to be a great thing for me because I was the director there, and I'm one of the lucky ones, Russ. It was April of 2020, and July, I got the call from Atelier Ace, who I'm with now, and I got picked up as the vice president for them, which was a first time role for this company. They didn't have a corporate leader in HR. They didn't have a DEI leader for the company, and so I was able to join them and put in infrastructure and put in a maturity. They were already an uber inclusive organization.
Okay.
Was founded by three gay men, so they already know what it's like to be marginalized
Mm,
and how that feels. And so what they did with these hotels when they first started out was to make sure that it was a very inclusive, very inviting, being that it was paramount that those that work for them and those that were customers always felt like they belonged.
mm,
And so that's part of their DNA. So when they called me to join them, and I talked to the president, now the CEO, I could tell right away the things that I was hearing. He's very employee centric and very concerned about making sure that they're listening, using that feedback, and making a difference for the customers and for their team members. So it was a no brainer for me to take that. And so I've been with them the last couple of years. We have about 9 hotels. We did lose a couple. We were down to 9. We were a little bit higher than that previously, but we lost. We did lose a couple during the pandemic, but we're back on the rebound since we've joined. They opened before I arrived. We opened in Kyoto, Japan. And then since then, in the last 2 years, we opened in Brooklyn, we opened in Sydney, we opened in Toronto, and then our remaining hotels that we got a couple out there in California, LA and Palm Springs. We got um, property in New Orleans, and then right next door, these are all Aces, but right next door to the Ace in New Orleans, we have our luxury brand Maison de la Luz, and so that's right next door in New Orleans, and then here in on the East Coast. We're in Manhattan, and then we're also in the newest one that opened last summer in Brooklyn. So about 9 hotels. Got a couple of things in the hopper. Can't talk about just yet. They have to
okay.
do another live and talk about those. But we got a couple more hopper that'll be coming out likely next year.
Wow, very good. See, you've had an extensive career, Victor. I mean, and it's obvious that you chose hospitality. So, with just going to school and things like that. Now, I have one more question to ask. What
Yeah.
advice would you give someone who's interested in going into the hospitality field?
Wow, great question. I would say, and we need it. So if you're listening and you're undecided, it's tons of fun. If you are someone who um, is all about taking care of folks and helping folks, we got a place for you, especially with Ace. And I would say you got to be able. This is what I tell leaders. It doesn't matter what their job is in hospitality, any level. I'm looking for people that have emotional intelligence, because you got to have it. There's some high highs and some low lows, so you got to be able to have emotional intelligence. You need to be able to have some empathy, but also with care, which is compassion. It's one thing to say I understand where you're coming from, but if you say I understand where you're coming from, let me help you, is a
Mm,
whole
mm,
different scenario. So if you have empathy plus care, come on board. And then the last two things are specifically for anyone. Doesn't matter whether you're a leader or you're entry level. You got to be able to learn how to build relationships. That is the biggest derailer
mm.
of any industry, is someone that has the inability to build relationships. So you got to know how to be able to build um, relationships. And then in our industry, and I'm sure most others as well, you got to be a problem solver. You can't be one of those folks that says, well, look at that. That's messed up. Look at this. Why is that? It's okay to have that eye, but you got
Mhm.
to be able to say, look at that. That's messed up. And here's the solution.
Exactly.
And not even if it might not be the right one, but at least come to the table with a solution, because that might help others think, oh, okay, we might be able to do that if we tweak it this way, and then that'll work. So be a problem solver, be able to build relationships, empathy plus care, and emotional intelligence. Have those things. You can rock and roll with me anytime.
Very good, man. Man, I appreciate this. It's always good to connect with Victor. Now, as if you didn't know that, Victor and I are good friends. Okay, we're great friends. So we've known each other I ain't gonna tell you how long, but I'll just say this. Victor went to high school in Indio High. I went to Palo Verde High. We were in the same league, okay, the same football league, and then we later went to junior college together and played football on the same team. So we played against each other in high school, and then later joined forces at College of the Desert, and then played on the same team. And then later on, a couple years later, we end up at Cal Poly in the same major, which I don't have a problem with saying this. Well, I do have a problem with saying this because it shouldn't be like this. There's only three black people in that major
Yeah,
when at the time that we were there. So it was me, Victor, and I think Suzanne was was the other person. So, but you know, it is what it is. We did what we needed to do. We learned a lot. We applied what we learned. Even to this day, we still apply things.
yeah,
And then going through, we both went through Marriott. And to me, I think Marriott's probably one of the best hotel companies to work for because a lot of the stuff that I learned that I didn't learn at Cal Poly, I learned through Marriott, and I still apply it every single day to what
yeah.
I do now. So I don't know if Victor can say that, but I can say that.
Yeah, yeah, no, I was just telling actually a group of leaders when I start off, we've been doing leadership development all this year from property to property, and I tell my story similar to what I just told now, and I say the same thing that when I was at Marriott, actually this is what I say. I didn't say it on this call, I'll say it now. I La Quinta Resort again, fabulous, fabulous resort. And when I left after almost 13 years, I thought I knew it all. I had gone to school, I had been slinging these groups, big groups, $1 million pieces of business, and I thought I knew it all. And then I got to Marriott, I hadn't been certified CMP, I had, and then CMP, but it was because of the tutelage and their having an environment of learning at that. You had to get 40 hours of training every year when I was there, and
Mm,
so I learned so much more about how to be a better convention service manager and how to take care of your employees as well as how to take care of customers. Because I learned so much more with them that I still apply to this day. So
very good. All right. Well, we're done, Victor. You're off the hot seat. So
okay,
as you can see, Victor chose hospitality, and anybody that's interested in coming on this, you're more than welcome to come on. Hospitality professionals. That's what we want. You don't have to be dressed up. As you can see, we're both relaxed today, right? So it's
yeah,
not about the dress. It's about the message that you're sending out to people, right? So don't get caught up on I got to look a certain way and this and that. It's not about that. It's about you sharing your story. How did you get involved in this industry? It's been great for a lot of people. It's been great for me. It's been obviously great for Victor and how his career has progressed over the years. And who would have thought that, you know, back in the day that Victor would be, you know, I'm sure in his wildest dreams, he didn't know he would be a
vice
VP
president. Yeah.
you know, a major hotel company. So, but it worked. And who knew that I would be Russell of hotels? Who knew that, right? But but anyway, but I appreciate you. And then Dylan made a comment. He said you have to have empathy, but with care. Victor, I agree. So so yeah, so people making comments. This is what it's all about. I encourage the comments to come in. So feel free to always, if I'm doing a live, you can make comments, and sometimes you can even come on and talk. But anyway, I want to thank you again, Victor Simmons. I appreciate it. I know you're, you know, on your way to, you know, take a week off and get some R&R in, some much needed R&R. So, but I do appreciate you taking the time and spending 20 minutes with me. So you have a great day, great week. Be safe, and we'll see you soon.
Russ, thanks so much, man. Always a pleasure. Good to see you. Thanks for doing this, brother.
All
Appreciate
right,
it.
take care
All
now.
right. Take
Peace.
care.
All right, bye.